Hey folks! When playing D&D or any other tabletop role-playing game, you don't want to subvert expectations frequently. You want to do exactly what the players expected to happen. No, but seriously, you want your plot twists to be mellow and for your expectations to become the story. If the players have been building up towards a confrontation with a big dragon, then at some point, you should fight that dragon. This is the same reason why sometimes players are perfectly comfortable with a pure, cartoonishly evil villain, because it feels great to defeat them. If the villain reveals their motivation as part of their tragic backstory, then it somewhat takes the wind out of the sails of the players to realize that they're not fighting against pure evil. I'm going to give two examples in this video of a subversion of expectation, one that didn't work and one that worked. For the one that didn't work, the party had already fought what was effectively an endgame boss of the campaign. They ran through an escape sequence and got to the final door, where they were informed that one of them would need to sacrifice themselves to break the cycle that had been plaguing the world since the beginning of their adventure. It turns out that all the players didn't want to sacrifice themselves, and instead of it feeling like a heroic triumph in sacrifice, the players really just felt like they were arbitrarily deciding which one of them was going to be sacrificed. That was almost 10 years ago now that session was run. Now, if we compare that to an experience that a YouTuber, Pointy Hat, had, where almost the exact same circumstances caused every player to want to sacrifice themselves instead, we have to ask, what was different? Well, in Pointy Hat's example, he had included a drone companion that would make the decision for them if all the characters were too afraid to. That one change was enough to tip the scales in the favor of this plot point, but there was more beyond that going against this for my case. For one thing, sacrifice was not a constant theme throughout the game. If I had made it clear that sacrifice was topical to the world in which the players were, they may have been able to kind of step through the stages of grief more slowly to come to terms with this particular obstacle here. Additionally, the players did have options that would permit them to circumvent this particular challenge. For one example, I would have completely accepted if a player had used their wish to not have to make the sacrifice. But the players were afraid to use their wishes, unaware that there was nothing left in the campaign beyond this final decision and a resolution. Ultimately, this example didn't work because it wasn't in theme, it wasn't prefaced or expected, alternatives to it were not made completely apparent, and finally, it didn't match the particular set of players playing in that campaign. Now, here's a subversion of expectations that did work well, and it's ultimately due to the concept of giving the players what they want that it worked out so nicely. The story goes like this. In a different, longer-term campaign with a completely different set of players, the players were told that there was a horde inside a volcano on an island known as Mount Koanamen. Now, these players were driven by the desire to get the contents of the horde, but they didn't know a lot about the dragon who guarded it. They're the sort to try to make friends with those who don't get in their way while trying to still get the benefit from what those characters were trying to guard in the first place. As an example, the party didn't have any particular beef against the Emerald Dragon guarding the horde, but they wanted the contents of the horde anyways. The party was also very strong. They could easily defeat a dragon unless the dragon collects some kind of assistance. Simultaneously, one of the party members was in constant conversation with a spirit of death, like a Grim Reaper but as part of this world's lore instead. He had a particular fascination with one of the characters, and had promised that if she, along with her party, could defeat him, his scythe would be hers. So the party reached the island, and after some long-distance scouting, it seemed that the Emerald Dragon was gone. The party later discovered that the Emerald Dragon had escaped, leaving a portion of his hoard as a peace offering. But the party wasn't going to get this for free. This was the exact moment Death's avatar landed on the planet, and the boss fight that the party knew that they were going to have was instead against a character that they didn't expect. So why did this all work? Well, the party knew they would be fighting Death's avatar soon. They just didn't know when. Additionally, like I said, they didn't have any problems with the Emerald Dragon. They just wanted his hoard. And the Emerald Dragon was smart. He knew his life was on the line and decided to make friends with the powerful party instead of antagonizing them, and possibly putting an end to his very long life as a result. The point of this video is, give your players exactly what they expect. You don't have to deliver it to them in a way that they expect, and you can still subvert expectations, but ultimately the lesson here is to tune in to what your party wants. Every once in a while, you might be interested in individually surveying each of your players to discover what their characters want in the short-term and long-term gameplay. Give them a game plan to work with. And with that, thank you all for watching, and have a great day. Bye.